welcome everybody. You have turned into the Father Show, and I'm your host, Mike Thompson. And today we have a fantastic show for you. And I mean, really, we do have a fantastic show. We have a young man here that, if you have ever heard of the BarberShop talk, well, this is the man that discovered it. I have Jide Gamu, and Jide is we're going to be talking about dating and relationships, but he grew up knowing about men, but he has also, with that black barbershop talk, he turned it into a television broadcast and later did a spinoff called for women called A Woman's Worth. He co-hosts a radio show on KLDC 800 AM called Anointed Word on the Street. And then topics include the impact of growing up in a fatherless home. And that's something that I think is very important. We all need to know that impact, how important it is to have a father in a home. And one of the things I loved about his resume, that he is an airborne trooper, which is, I have to admire anybody that's willing to jump out of a plane on his own. Will not push, not, the plane ain't going down. You just jump out. But he is currently residing in Washington, D.C. with his daughter. And yes, he is a single father, and I love that. And he is also endeavoring to bring about positive change in our community. And Lord knows we need that right now with everything that's going on. So this is a powerful, great man, and I'm so proud to have him on our show. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like for you to welcome today, Gamo. Hey man, how you doing?
Hey, I'm living the dream. How you doing, Mike?
I'm all right, man. This is fantastic. Like I said, I'm really psyched and happy to have you on the show because what you've done with the barbershop talk, I knew about it in Denver when I was there, and I didn't know who started it, but I've had people to, approach me about it and talk to me about it, and I always thought it was a great idea because where do black men, going to sit down and really talk and get things off their chest? So, kudos to you, man. That
Oh
was a
yeah.
great idea.
No, I appreciate it. And it wasn't just me. It was a collective of young, at the time, young individuals that did things that well exceeded their age. And I couldn't have pulled it off without them. But it's interesting how it started off. I was a young man that saw two different things. One, I saw, from a spiritual perspective or a religious perspective. I played the drums and played the drums in a number of different churches, and as a 17, 18-year old, I couldn't fathom the reason why is it that we have so many different churches if we all fall under God and we all follow love. Why we have so many different perspectives. And I want to get all the pastors all in one room and say, let's iron it out and let's get on one page, on one accord, and now let's go and lead, the people. It was primarily initially that, and then I also I did a lot of work with youth and high school and whatnot, and as easy as it was to inspire a young person and get them to find their joy and be happy every day that they went home. They went back to the same issues, and it was kind of like I was
Right.
I was turning the wheel, having to do the same thing over again. So I realized, I said, hey, well, maybe the problem isn't, the young person, it's the two parents at home. And so I started to look at the home, and I said, well, in these homes, in most situations, the father isn't there. So let me focus on the father. So it moved to just not just worrying and focusing on, the pastoral leadership, but just men in general.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where barbershop talk grew. And it was great. It was awesome.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was
I
awesome. I'll
heard
tell
a
you
lot about
plain.
it when I was in Denver, and just my schedule always conflicts, so I was never able to attend one. But I think, just to have a young mind, a young person deciding to do that is huge, and it's really, speaks volumes of the type of man that you are. So I really applaud you in doing that and all your endeavors that you know, have started and are doing even currently. But let me ask you something, and this is totally off the subject.
Sure.
How did you become a airborne trooper?
So, and I'll try to keep it as concise. Around the time, I was doing barbershop talk. We were gearing up to do a woman's worth. I was a second vice chair. I was a vice chair for the Human Relations Commission in Aurora. And then I was also, I was lucky enough to meet two individuals, Alex Cranberg and Susan Morris, two magnificent individuals who were great mentors to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a holistic international personal trainer for a company called Aduco. Um, and just to talk about Aduco, and I don't want to dive too deep, but it definitely changed my life. And as things continue to move forward with my career and my vision, you will definitely hear more about Aduco. Um, but as I wanted to get closer to back to community, um, uh, at the time I was having my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew that the traveling wasn't something that was going to keep me home. I couldn't continue jumping around country to country. I had to be home to be a father. And I started working at Ridgeview Academy where my passion was there, but the finances weren't there. And one of my best friends from high school had to hit me up one day and he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "How you doing, man?" He said, I'm living the dream. I'm in the army." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "I get paid this much." He said, "I come home every day. You're basically working 9 to 5, and I
Mm-hmm.
jump out of planes." And for me, I said, "Well, there goes the time I'm at home." I said, "There goes the adventure, jumping out of planes, and I'm able and I'm making the money." I said, "Oh, hey, sign me up." And immediately I went down to a recruiter, did the deal, signed up, and at the end of basic training and AIT, which is your initial training, I said, "I'm done with all this training. I don't even want to jump out of a plane now," because it was just more training. But after that, I went on a deployment, went straight to Iraq, came back and I found the opportunity to go to 10th Group Special Forces, and immediately they sent me to airborne school. And to
Mm.
be honest with you, it was one of the best opportunities. It taught me so much, jumping out of a plane. I don't think that, and it even speaks to some of the things that I talk about when it comes to relationships and just life in general. Anybody that jumps out of a plane and says that they're not scared, they're lying.
Thank you.
There is always a fear factor.
Right.
The fear factor never goes away. The difference between a person that willingly jumps out of a plane, and the person that says no is the person that jumps out of a plane has something that we call courage.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, to me, it's the understanding or the acknowledgement of a fear and the ability to push beyond that fear. Now,
Right.
you know, courage and stupidity have the same definition as knowing something that could possibly hurt you and to do it anyway. Stupidity, but for the appreciation side of the house, we're gonna look at the positive end of that, and we're gonna call it courage.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
I agree with you 100%. I would call it courage because, my wife has talked to me about, oh, we ought to do that. We ought to jump out of plane. I said, woman, no. If you had caught me, 20 years ago, I probably would. But, I'm in my 60s now. I don't have any
oh yeah.
desire to jump out of a plane in my 60s. I already know I'm getting close to death. I don't need to push it any further. It's gonna happen. I know.
Oh man. I'm gonna encourage you to do it nonetheless. My mother just turned 60, and the one thing that I was able to say to her and to a room full of people is that, as you turn 60, you've worked hard throughout your life.
Hmm.
Um, uh, and I gave it in an analogy. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, and as you know,
Uh-oh.
as the Dallas Cowboys, what we do. We have our angle. We work hard on the first quarter, the third quarter, second quarter, and possibly a third quarter. So by the time that we get to the fourth quarter, we're chilling. You gotta try to catch us. Too much catch up to kind of get us. And I speak to people like yourself, my mother. You guys have worked hard. Your first quarter of life, second quarter, third quarter. By the time that you reach 60, you're in your fourth quarter, and it's time to appreciate and enjoy all the things that you work so hard to do. So travel, adventure, jump out of a plane and do all those things, and just enjoy and
Wow.
love it, and just and in a way, I'm saying live.
Yeah. Well, I agree with the live, but I guarantee you, I'm never going to let my wife see this video. She's not going to see it because she's going to say, "See," and I'm like, mm-mm.
There it is. There it is. I'm gonna get you out of a plane.
"Yeah, she going to try." Hey, so that kind of leads now segue into dating, and you're talking
Yeah.
about how courage it takes courage to date, and and I know after a divorce and after you have gone through some things, and you might not even gotten over the anger of the divorce, whether
Yeah.
you caused it or whether you just lost a lot, what you feel is a
Yeah.
lot because of, say, the actions that you took, the choices
Hmm.
that you made, or so what would you say to men that are looking to go out and date and don't know how to start, or should they even start,
Hmm.
with or without kids?
Um, I would say this, and this is how I define dating, and I hope to redefine it for the world as I continue to push forward in this journey. First is to recognize what dating is. And for me, dating is a science. It's the study. It's to study something, and in essence, to me, it's to study you. It's to study and learn about not only yourself and how you react to others. So I implore people to get out there and date as much as possible. There is and along with dating, I implore you to be vulnerable. I do believe that there is strength and vulnerability. And so understand that as you get out there and date, don't date with the perspective of getting married tomorrow. I want you to date with the perspective of appreciating the time that you get to spend with an individual, the things that you get to learn about an individual, and also understanding and taking the time to appreciate the things that you get to learn about yourself. So, as I say that it's a study, every date that you go on, you should be learning something. You should be learning not only something about the individual, but you should learn something about yourself, and go out and date as much as possible. But but really fine tune and practice your methods of dating. Where do you go on a first date? How
Mm-hmm.
much are you going to spend on a first date?
Mm-hmm.
What questions are you going to ask? And um, are you looking to share more about yourself to the individual, or are you looking to learn about the individual that you're sitting in front of? And how do you communicate with this individual? We've all been on bad dates.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
the most part, 9 times out of 10, men were the reason why it's a bad date. But but again, it's the learning process. You know, but your ability to rebound and maybe possibly turn a bad situation into a good situation. It takes practice. Is
Mm-hmm.
is 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 putting tools into your tool bag to learn, hey, you know, I said this and she reacted this way. Maybe I should say this so I can change that reaction.
Mm-hmm.
How does she respond to what I'm responding? It's all about communication. And at the end of the day, these are just leadership skills that are going to affect you not only in your relationship, one day in your marriage. It's going to affect you with your kids, and it will affect you even in the work environment as you're dealing with employees, as you become a manager, or if you're dealing with even someone dealing with a manager. Communication skills are very, very important, and it
Yeah.
plays a large role in dating.
Absolutely. And you said it, in dating and relationships, period. Communication is
Hmm.
huge. And we as men generally do not like to communicate. We might give you a
Hmm.
grunt or two, like here and there, like, yeah, okay. Uh, but we're not going to have a long conversation about it.
Hmm.
What would you advise to men in regards to communicating better?
Oh man, that's so. So I'm a dating and relationship analyst, and as I sit with clients, and for the majority of uh, women clients that I sit down with, one of the number one things or gripes or complaints that I hear is when they're dating is that the conversation. The
Hmm.
conversation is dry. It's hard to find a guy that they can actually just talk to and have a
Mm-hmm.
real conversation with. So I just watched a clip from another individual I want to actually bring onto my team, and she was talking about the not the rook in the game of chess, which was
Mm-hmm.
the horse and the movement that the horse makes on the chessboard, and how sometimes when you start off with a conversation that you have an end point, that sometimes that conversation takes a left turn and then it moves up again two more spaces, makes a left turn. It's the way that the rook moves across the board on a game of chess, and all of that is to be able to get to an end point. But in that, every time that you make that left turn and you're saying something different, you're asking a different question, based off of the initial question, you're learning something new. And the more questions that you ask in discovery to find out new things about this individual, the more of a conversation that is created. Um, Everyone has something to share. Everyone has new experiences. The more that you learn and find out about those experiences and also share and offer your experiences to the individual, the
Mm-hmm.
more of a great conversation that you can have. Um, but just identify things, have fun, be loose, be free, don't hold back. Um,
Yeah. And
don't
wouldn't you say
don't
that?
don't give your representative, if you will.
And wouldn't you say that, like, if you're on your first or second date, going somewhere, maybe where you don't have to really do a whole lot of talking, but you still get to know the other person? You think that's a
Mhm.
good idea?
I would kind of say the opposite. I think the first date there should be a whole lot of talking. I say that because as a guy, there was a time where I would maybe go on maybe say about 4 dates in a week,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you go on a date, and maybe I would take her on a dinner date, dinner and a movie, because it's when you're just thinking of on a date.
Yeah.
Um, well, you think about how much you're spending on that date, right? When you start breaking it down, I spend maybe about 60, $70 on a date. Cause obviously at that time in your head, you're like, I want to impress her. So if I take her to a nice restaurant, make her feel good, make her feel, special and whatnot, that's more kudos or whatnot. So you take her on a nice restaurant, spend 60, $80 and go to dinner or go to a movie after that. And then, maybe there's the possibility that there isn't a second date. You go on the next date that week, same thing. You go on the next date that week, same thing. And
Mm-hmm.
as you look over it and you think about it, when you start looking at your pockets, you're like, man, I spent 60, $80, which really turned out to be about $400 in about a week. And I didn't even get a second date out of any one of them. It was a waste
Mm.
of money.
Yeah.
So now what I started to do because of that, and there was one date that made me do that specifically. Um, what I would do is like, my first date shouldn't be no more than 10 to $15. So you start thinking of things that cost 10 to $15, less than 10 to $15. Hey, we're going to Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we're getting ice cream. Hey, we're going for a walk. And we're just going to have conversation to see if there's a point in having a second date,
Yeah.
for me to invest more. So I think that the first date should definitely be just conversation to see if we have the chemistry to just talk and be around each other. And then the second date should be something more fun and interactive to see if there's a level of 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 camaraderie that we can have some fun, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
and so on and so forth. But yeah, your first date should definitely be about conversation, because if you can't talk and you can't communicate and at that level, there's no point in going further.
Yeah. Good. And I know with myself when I was going through it, I like to, you know, talk. I don't mind talking. I'm still, my wife don't believe I'm shy, but she was like, no, but I am. But I don't have a problem really talking. My background has been in sales and been in different things. So I guess I know how to turn that piece on when I need to.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
you know, if I don't have to talk, I really don't want to. So I know there's a lot of men out
Yeah.
there that we don't always know what to say or how to say it. Um, you know, if you especially, I don't know. Let me ask you: if you are a guy that spent a lot of time with the fellas
Mhm.
and not a
Mhm.
lot of time, with your former wife, and maybe that's one reason y'all got divorced.
Mhm.
Now you got to go out there and date. What would you
Mhm.
say? Because you can't talk to her like you talk to the fellas. So, what would you say to him to help him get to the point where he can really have a good conversation with this young lady?
Ah, man. I would say that it is. I would say I want to. I would say that it's twofold, right? Um, I think that all of us as men and as women, we have particular conversations that we tend to be very passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
that we could talk about up and down. Maybe it might be a TV show, maybe it might be about something that some collector's item or politics or religion. You name it. We all have something that when we start going about it, we just start going.
Yeah.
It could be about past relationships and past experiences. And when you get on that subject, you just start going.
But would you
What it is
suggest that a man talk about his past relationship on the first 2 or 3 dates?
it depends on what you're talking about in those past relationships. Are you
Okay.
talking about things that you appreciate that you've learned from past relationships that's helped you to grow and shape your perspective, or
Mm-hmm.
are you still talking down about the person because you're still affected and you haven't grown from that situation?
Okay.
Those are two
Yeah,
different
two different
viewpoints.
things. Yeah.
So I think if you're talking about how you've grown in your perspective and you're still open to a different perspective so that you can learn, maybe the person on the other side of the table can kind of give you a different perspective to make you see, oh, wait, so maybe this is why maybe that didn't work out. And if I would have handled it this way, maybe I maybe still would be in that relationship. Or maybe you weren't in the wrong, or you did everything that you could have done. And the other person on the other side of the table was like, yeah, I can see maybe you did what you were supposed to do. And then they draw a connection to that on how they would deal with that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Chemistry is there, and it's a great conversation.
Well, and it also will
Um,
give you a good perspective on how she would handle that situation should it
exactly.
actually come up again.
Exactly. And how she responds to it.
Mm-hmm.
Does she listen? Does she ask questions? Is she looking to dive in and asking, well, what were you thinking when you made that decision, or how you dealt with it? Because again, when I talk about dating, it's a science, it's a discovery. You are taking mental notes on everything that happens throughout that date. Now, whether you record those mental notes is another thing, and bring and keep them, but you're paying attention to body posture, how they did this, how they did that. So yeah, talking about past experiences and relationships, it's definitely important. I pay attention to it. One thing that I think we all agree with is that you never really know your wife or a person that you're dating until you go through a breakup or a divorce. The real
Ooh,
them.
yeah, that
Um,
is for sure.
so yeah, oh yeah. So I pay really close attention to how a woman explains, if she's divorced and she has kids, how she dealt with her divorce. I pay
Mm-hmm.
attention to those things. Or
Mm-hmm.
past breakups. How did you deal with those breakups? How did you respond to the individual? I pay attention to those things. I think at some point we get to an age that red flags, you don't need three, four red flags to make a decision upon if this is the right one. You hear one and you understand where that will grow.
Yeah.
And if it's time to put a cut to that, it's time, hey, this isn't it. so, so asking those questions is really important. You can find a lot out in a first date. It's about that discovery. So
Yeah.
yes, I do say that it's important to ask questions about the past, but make sure you dive into those questions. Don't take the surface answer for face value. Dive in and figure out, discover more,
Yeah.
discover the
Because
motives and intent.
the more questions you ask, the more you can learn about that other person, because how they're going to
Yes.
respond and how what they have to say and even how they say it.
Yes, yes, yeah, 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 yeah. And your response to it, and even to offer different perspectives of how they possibly could have handled it, and you have to be you have to be particular on how you do that and how you offer, I would call, I would say even mentorship or just guidance and say, hey, well, did you see it from this perspective? Could you
Mm-hmm.
possibly think about maybe from this perspective? This is what he was saying. Because communication is a big deal when it comes to relationships. And
Yeah.
I think it plays a huge role in why a lot of relationships don't work out. So if you can possibly paint the picture of what the person was trying to communicate from the other end of the table, it gives the other individual a different perspective. It says, ah, okay, which is another way of chemistry, and provides great conversation.
Yeah. Man, and that's
Yeah.
good. I really like your what you're saying, and I hope our men out there will really get a different perspective. But let me ask you: do you think there is a real deal when it comes down to a rebound? You know, you're dating after you say the first woman you start dating after your divorce, and do you see or do you hear that a lot of those relationships work or do not work?
I don't I I don't see anything wrong with the rebound. I do agree with the terms or the definition of the rebound that normally if you get out of a relationship, the next person that you're dating, you're seeing that person through the lens of your last relationship. Um, that is very true. But if you recognize that you're seeing them through the lens and you try to, use the windshield wiper method, that you try to give them a clean
Mm-hmm.
slate, and that person is also patient and understanding with what you were. I say we're all healing in front of one another.
Yeah.
And so you have to have some understanding. You're not just healing from your past relationship. You're healing from all the past relationships. You're healing from childhood issues, things that you've been through. And so it requires anybody that's on the other side of the table to have some level of understanding. But I would say get out there and date. So I related to one of my favorite players, Kobe Bryant. Uh, you know, Kobe Bryant, uh, if he stayed on the court by himself, just practicing all day, practice, 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 he could never say that he was the best player in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Kobe Bryant had to go up against the best players and dominate them in order for him to say that he was the best player. Now, yes, granted, he practiced, but he had to get out there and then show what he was doing, because had he never done that, he said he was the best player, no one would believe him. There's a lot of people that talk a good game, but you have to get out there and practice what you've learned
Mm-hmm.
and show what you've learned. So the same thing is with dating. You have to, as you get out there and you practice while you're dating, um, the only if you don't practice and you don't get out there and you're just sitting at home and you're like, yeah, I'm good. I learned from my mistakes. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. There's no show that you are good. You have to get out there and date and see if you've actually improved on what the issues that you're having, to make you ultimately say that you're better. And it won't be you saying you're better, it'd be
Yeah.
the people saying that you're better.
Now that is an analogy I never heard, but I love it. I mean, you're right. You can't say you are something unless you get out there and prove that you are something. If you are, you're a great date and I'm a great catch, and but you don't go out there and prove it by dating,
Hmm.
then yeah. So I
Yeah,
like that. I like it.
it's huge. Your partner is a mirror. The person you're in a relationship with it is a mirror, and they know you sometimes better than you know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We there's that saying that a lot of people say, well, I don't care what other people think about me.
That's a
But
lot.
what other people think about you is really, really important. When you go to an interview, what the person that's interviewing you thinks about you is what's going to get you a job.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know what other people think about you tends to be somewhat right. And it doesn't have to be one person, but if you look at maybe 7 out of 10 people, if they're
Mm-hmm.
saying something about you, maybe that's something you need to look at and
Mm-hmm.
and and work on. So listening to other people's perspective and taking note of that is really, really important, as
You're right.
opposed to just shielding it off and being on the defense.
Yeah. So where did you get your degree from?
Jide doesn't have one.
Okay.
I don't
Is it
I don't have a
called life?
degree. I've is life. I've studied, I have gone to school, different classes, different courses. For me, I believe that you go to different courses, you pick up what you need, and then you go out and it's about it's about your passion and your drive. I'm an innovator. I create, and for me, I don't believe that I need a particular degree to say that I can do this. And my years of working with millionaires and billionaires and giving ideas. No one's ever asked me what school have you went to, although I have. I've attended Harvard. I've gone to some, even negotiate. I've become an expert negotiator. Um, I've done that, but I can care less about those. I see. I got more certificates and stuff like I don't even put up on my wall because I can really care less. It's about what you do with them. You know, you
Yeah.
I can be a doctor. I've seen a lot of people's with doctor degrees and whatnot, and they're working as bank tellers,
Mm-hmm.
when things start shutting down. Again, at the end of the day, it's not the degree, it's what you do with the degree. And if you have an ability and a talent to get out there and make some things happen that no one's ever been able to do before, people are going to catch on to it and you're going to be successful.
Yeah. Well, a lot of our millionaires and billionaires have no degree whatsoever.
Exactly. Exactly. I
Yeah.
agree 100%.
Yeah.
So, it's about what you do. And so I've always been a proponent of just getting out there and making it happen. You figure it out. Now, that's not to say that you can't learn anything in college. I've learned a lot going through different college courses,
Mm-hmm.
certification
Mm-hmm.
courses and whatnot. And as I continually grow, there's education everywhere. There may be some more courses that I need as well, but there's no college that has me to back them and say, "Hey, go here to get what you need." That's not me. No
I,
college debt here.
I agree with you 100%. Really, I went to college and I didn't graduate from college because I had other aspirations, and so I left college after 2.5 years. Uh, but I did learn a lot, and I still learn
Mhm.
today because even in my 60s, I still believe that I got a lot to learn. I have a lot that I can do,
Mhm.
and I have never let anything or anybody stop me from doing what I want to do. And
There you go.
for a young man like yourself, I see a lot of that, and you're innovator, and you do things that are going to better our community and better your life. And let me ask you, you're a single dad, and how long you been a
Mhm.
single dad?
I have been a single dad since I would say 2011, 2010, 2011. So,
Okay, so
almost
nine
10,
years,
11 years,
9, 10 years,
9 years
yeah,
going on 10 years. Yep. Yep.
yeah. And
Yeah. It's
how do
been
you find, dating wise, how do you find that being a single dad? Is that something you find hard to do, or you find that, relatively easy?
No, it's been a journey from from different perspectives. From my daughter's perspective, it's been interesting. One, my daughter has taught me more about women than any woman has ever taught me. I recall a time where she was talking about something and I was doing some other things, text messaging at the same time, and she grabbed my face and turned it to her. And what she was telling me is she wanted my undivided attention.
Mm,
It taught me wonders. And if you're paying attention, they'll definitely communicate what you need to know. But as far as when it goes to women, it's not easy because one, you're not only looking for someone who is great for you and who you're great for, you're also looking for someone who is great for your daughter. And
right.
most times when you're dating and you don't have kids, you're only looking at what's good for you and you're hoping that they'll be a great parent based off the values that a person talks about, but
Mm-hmm.
you really don't know what kind of parent they're going to be. Well, when you're already a parent, you have to analyze what kind of parent is this person? What type of person are they?
Yeah.
And so it requires more thinking. Things that I'm thinking about is, things that I tend to think about is uh, how do they develop relationships?
Mm-hmm.
You have different type. You have a manager and you have a person that's a developer. A manager is going to say, "Hey, be here at this time. You're not there, you get docked." A developer is going to ask, "Hey, what made you? Why aren't you? What's making it so that you're late?" Let me assist. Let me develop this relationship with you. What's going on at home? And they ask questions. They want to get to know you. They're walking, with you along the way, and they're encouraging you. And so different people have different ways of developing relationships, and some people don't know how to do that. And so for me, I look at that ability when it comes to my daughter. How do they develop relationships? Do they have that ability? And it's not easy.
Yeah.
Not everyone has it. And you can like a person, they could be great for you, just not great for your daughter. Um, so it's tough in that light. It was also tough being able to date while having to try to find a babysitter, and just getting that time or whatnot. So it required a lot of trust on me, as far as leaning on people that were around me, community friends, to be able to help me out, and a lot of people were able to help me out throughout the time of dating. Now my daughter's a little bit older; she's 12, so it's a little bit easier to go on dates. But then I also took on a different perspective of introducing my daughter when she was younger. Um, Anybody that I happen to introduce my daughter to was a friend, period. Even still now, they're just a friend. I never show anything of intimacy, not a kiss, not a holding of hands, nothing like that in front of my daughter. But I believe that kids need to see you going through the dating process,
Mm-hmm.
because you just don't meet somebody and boom, magically you're married, and it works out. There's some successes and there's some fails. And you want them to know that, as when they step into high school and they start dating, that hey, the first person you meet may not be, Mr. Right.
That's a
You
good
don't just
point.
you just don't throw everything in there. And so if you don't show them that dating process and how you go through the dating process, what your expectations are on what a person is supposed to do, while you're going through that dating process, they never know. You know,
Yeah.
One of the first things that I ask clients, or as I'm talking about the app that I'm going through, is who taught you how to date?
Mm.
And the answer is always the same: nobody. I figured it out on my own by bumping my head.
Yeah.
No one has taught you how to date. And so we learn what love is by understanding what love is not,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
So my goal is, not only through my app and what I'm doing, but also with my actions, and with my daughter, is teaching her how to date through my dating experiences, and so that she can see it full circle. I think every child deserves that, to be able to learn that, and hopefully one day before she's 18, she'll get an opportunity to see what it's like to uh, what it's like to see the role of a father, and a father as a husband, and the
Mm-hmm.
same thing as a mother, as a wife, and also as a step parent or whatnot.
Okay.
So
So let me ask you, what would you tell, and I know for today our time has run up, but
okay.
what would you want to say to men out there right now that are looking to date, wanting to date, and how can they get a hold of you if you're taking even calls, to help them?
Um, I would say, we are all raised differently, and again, we're all learning how to date. If you have questions, if you have even if there's something that you're struggling with, I'm more than willing to talk to you, and answer some questions. And I know for most of us men, we feel like we got it. We're learning, we're bumping our head, and there's nothing wrong with us leaning to each other. I think for the most part we do it with each other, with guys and men or whatnot. But if I can be of any assistance, by all means, reach out to me. Um, my email address is JIDE at iFOUR, which is just iFOUR core.com. It's Jide at iFOURcore.com. You're more than welcome to reach out to me. I'm very responsive. But again, I encourage all men to get out there and date, and and build your level of confidence. Don't be afraid of rejection, and don't be afraid to miss out, or mess up on a date. That's how you learn. You learn by messing up. But censor your anger. Don't get upset. Don't put it off on the other person. Just realize there are more fish in the sea, and there's another opportunity to learn and to get out there and do it again. Dating should be fun. It's supposed to be fun. Have a great time doing it. Don't feel like, if one doesn't fail or doesn't work out, that it's the end of the world. There's another opportunity. Get out there, learn from it, and improve. If there's anything that I would say, and this is my last thing in closing, that the one tool that makes any relationship successful, any relationship, I learned this at Harvard, is appreciation. It's appreciation. The ability to look at something that is jacked up or wrong and find the good in it. To see something bad and find the good in it, which means, for an example, a knife. A knife can be used to kill, and a knife can also be used to cut bread. Focusing on the fact that it can be used to cut bread is finding appreciation for the tool. If you can find appreciation in any situation, I'm telling you, things will be great. And if you get two people that have the ability to appreciate anything and everything, or find appreciation in anything, that's a relationship that will be successful. So work on your ability to find appreciation and look for the things to appreciate. That is the most important thing. So every dating experience that you go on, find appreciation in it. If she cusses you out up and down, find appreciation in it. If there's things that happen in your past that you haven't healed from, find appreciation in it, so that when you think of that thought, you don't think of the negative in that thought, you think of the positive in that, and you find appreciation in it, and that is where healing truly begins. So that is my biggest thing, appreciation. If I'm gonna leave anything with anyone, find appreciation, and that's where you will find the love inside yourself to be able to love someone else.
Well, I think that's huge. Really appreciating whatever you have is a blessing, and not focusing on what you don't have, and that's something that I try to teach a lot of people is to be thankful for what you have and appreciate everything you do have, and don't focus on what you don't have. So
Oh yeah.
thank you again, Jide, to about being on the show. I really appreciate having you on the show. It has been fantastic, and I look forward to having you on here again. I know when we talked on the phone, we have a few subjects we want to talk about, and
We
I can't
do.
wait. Excuse me, I can't wait to do those and to have you back on here again. So thank you so much, and don't go away. I'm gonna close it out, but I'll talk to you in a second. But day, and I want to thank you for being here on the Father Show. It has been a blessing, and today has been giving us some great information. And we've had dating experts to come on the show, but I never had a man, and that's what I wanted, was to get a male's point of view on dating and how we should be doing it and how we can react. So I want to thank him more and more every day for being on our show and coming out and telling our men exactly what they need to know. So for you men and women, don't forget to subscribe. Our show is here every week, and we try to have things on there that's going to benefit you and your family. So remember to subscribe, hit that bell so that you can be notified when we have any new shows coming out, which is every Tuesday. So don't forget to tune in. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show for today. I thank you so much for being with us, and I look forward to seeing you next week. So, in the meantime, God bless.